guys, welcome back to my video. Today we're going to talk about setting and the best ways to use your senses. So welcome back to my video page. I know it's been a long time. You just saw that I just posted a video about the elk crate that I got in June that I haven't gotten up because I've been so busy. I've been editing. My brother was here. I was going to the beach all the time. I'm getting burnt. But I finally had some time to sit down and do another video with you. And if you like my spiffy paper crown that I'm hoping will stay on my head, it was in my June elk crate box for royalty. My Lady Jane. So I thought I'd wear it. Why not? Who cares? I like to be royalty every once in a while. And if you ask my aunt, she says everything is all about her, and I disagree. It's all about me. The crown proves it. So today we're going to talk about setting. It's a really tough topic to handle for a lot of people. I know I've had trouble with setting. I've been told by my mentors and a lot of my friends that are writers that my dialogue is really good and it's believable and it sounds like I'm actually having a conversation with my characters. But then I turn around and I'm either lacking setting, there's too much setting, or there's not enough details in the setting that I have to really bring the story to life. So why is setting important? Setting is actually probably one of the most important things in a novel because it sets the stage for what your readers are going to imagine when they start reading your stories. There are two types of setting. One I would call minimalistic setting, and that's where there's barely any setting at all, but the setting that you can get is very to the point and makes the reader come up with their own setting. Now that's very rare. I like to say poets use it a lot. They only have a few lines to work with and they use specific words and imagery to create a type of setting for the reader. Now there's also what I like to call over-the-top setting, and that's when you're looking at something like Lord of the Rings. And if you've read Lord of the Rings, you totally understand what I'm talking about. Pages upon pages upon pages of talking about a sunset. Now that's how the writer writes it. It's amazing. And we allowed the book to go to screen, and they didn't have to come up with a setting, they had it. So there's that kind of setting as well. And then I like to say that there's one right in the middle, which is what I do is you get enough setting that's perfect for the story, that uses the five senses that we have, that uses experience of the character. When I was thinking about the different types of techniques that a writer can use for setting, I did a lot of research and I found an article on writingworld.com. I have it here on my phone, you can see. So writingworld.com is a really good resource. There's a lot of articles written either by authors or other poets, editors, etc. They give really good recommendation on different writing techniques and materials, and you can advertise with them. There's contacts in there, all kinds of stuff that you can check out. Well, one of the articles that I found was written by, I'm probably going to get her name wrong, I'm really sorry, Moira Adeline, and she writes the 4 ways to bring setting to life, and I completely agreed with the article, and I really wanted to share it. I will put the link so you guys can check it out if you wanted to go read word for word what she says. And there are a bunch of other articles on there that I recommend when it comes to certain things if you're working on setting or if you're working on character or dialogue or more. So the first thing she talks about is revealing your setting through motion. That is, I think, a very important aspect. And I like to use this a lot, especially usually when it comes to really high intense scenes, not scenes that I'm just trying to describe the setting right away and you get it and then I go right into my characters. This is a type of technique that I use when my characters are, if I'm writing my paranormal stories, they're going into war or they're going to battle or they're snuck in somewhere and they're going to describe the setting. So writing through motion is when the character is moving through the scene and is experiencing the scene by movement and is going to talk about the most important aspects of the scene. Alan talks about using a character, Orphan Annie, and being in the mansion for the first time and going across a Persian rug. So how would she explain the Persian rug if she has never seen a Persian rug. So that's something you want to think about when your character is describing a scene. Are they going to know what they're seeing? Are they going to understand that that's a Van Gogh if they've never seen a Van Gogh? So that's kind of what you want to focus on, is how am I going to describe this scene while my character is moving through the scene, whether they have actually experienced the kind of things they're going to see. Just remember, when you are doing a setting with motion, you want to use active verbs. You want to use verbs that are right in the moment and there's movement. You don't want static verbs where nothing's happening. Alan likes to say you're basically breaking down the setting into bite-sized nuggets for the reader. The second type of setting technique that you can use is through experience of the character. And I agree with this, I use this all the time. This is kind of going back to the motion, but what does your character know, have experienced, or will experience in life that will describe the scene? Alan likes to point out, which I agree with completely, is she said, aside from noticing the things that the character would understand and experience, what are the things that the character would not experience, not know, and completely avoid or miss when they're walking through a scene? Another way Alan talks about revealing a scene is the mood of the character. So if the character is upset and is a dark character and he's in, let's say, a field of flowers, how is he going to describe that scene, or how is that scene going to come off to him? Whereas, let's say, a fun-go-lucky person goes into the same scene and sees all the beauty that there is, how is that scene going to be written? So you have to really think about what character or characters that are involved in the setting and how the setting is going to come about from those characters. So we, as people, might be terrified. Let's say you're writing a scene about hell or the underworld, you're writing an Egyptian novel like I am, and the characters are thrown into the underworld and they meet Anubis. For us, the living, that is terrifying. And what would we see, how would we describe the setting versus Anubis, who's down there all the time? And that's home for him. Or, for example, you can think about him as being, he's trapped because, depending on the century you're in, if you're going to have him as the god of the underworld versus the gatekeeper, how is Anubis going to see the underworld through his eyes? Is he going to see it as, this is my kingdom, this is mine, this is everything that I've worked for and have? Or is it going to be a setting where everything is dust and ruined and not the same as it used to be because now I'm this gatekeeper that does nothing but fairy souls? And the very last way that I use setting, and it's very important to me, a lot of my mentors use this, Alan talks about it in her article too, is using your senses when you're writing. And that's very important. I think people forget about all the senses that we have. We have touch, we have smell, we have hearing, sight, and taste, and all of these things can be used to describe a setting. A lot of people don't see how taste could describe a setting, but you kind of do taste the air, right? So if you're at the beach, you're going to taste salt. So that's a setting you can have, a setting description you can have in your story. What do you hear? What do you feel against your skin? Is the sun beating down on you, or is it humid like it is right now? Can you tell I'm sweating? Ugh. Is it cold? Do you feel like your skin is prickling? What do you see? Is snow falling? Is the rain coming down in heavy sheets? Is it so dry that you start seeing a mirage in the distance, or heat rising from the black top? And what can you touch? It could be as simple as you're touching your forehead and coming away with sweat, like I am, because it's super hot here and super humid, and California does that to you. So the senses, I think, are the most important when it comes to writing a setting, and that's actually my go-to when I usually do my writing of the scenes. And a lot of people will say that every single thing in a setting is important. One of my great mentors, Da Chen, I love him to death. Hi Da, if you watch this, I know you're busy like touring. He talks about everything is super important in the setting, from a chair to an ant on the window to a drape that's maybe slightly frayed. Everything about the setting is extremely important. That's how he writes his books. Whereas I don't think everything in a setting is important. If my character is not going to interact with this chair that is brand new, that has been just sitting there and has no sentimental value for this scene, it's not like her late grandmother's chair, or it's a chair that's been passed down from generation to generation, I'm not going to talk about it. Or if there's a fly on the window and it flies out the window, I'm probably not going to talk about it because it didn't buzz around and bother people. And one fly does not describe my scene, where if there were like 6 flies, that might indicate that there is a smell in the house, dirtiness. So I don't describe everything in a setting. I will describe the most important features of a setting that I need the reader to understand and to visualize. So that's it about setting. My recommendation is to practice writing different scenes. The better you are at writing what you see and feel and hear and experience, the better you are when you actually get to your novel or your poem or short story or whatever you're writing. When you get to set, go to the beach, write a couple paragraphs about experiencing the waves. If you're stuck in a car, very good experience, not when you're driving, but if you're, a passenger in the car, if you're like me, I can't write things down, so I'll just talk into my phone. If you're at a coffee house, experience a coffee house, talk about the different patrons that come in. There's so much out there that people ignore when it comes to setting. Look for the smallest detail, and if that smallest detail will work for you and work for your novel or story or whatever you're working on, will it make the story unique? Has it been done before? I mean, nobody expected Lord of the Rings to be what it was, and look at it now. It's like the most talked about setting story in the world, and it's beautiful. If you haven't read The Lord of the Rings, you probably should. If you don't want to read it, I guess you could see it, but you're missing a lot. So yeah, that's all about setting. I give up on this hat. Doesn't want to stay in my head. But I will see you guys next week, hopefully with an unboxing video, and we'll talk about another writing thing. If you guys have any recommendations on what you guys want to talk about when it comes to writing, just post below the video. Find me on social media. I am on social media. Author S.H. Clark on Facebook, or Author S.H. Clark on Twitter, or Author S.H. Clark on Instagram. I'm on all of them. You can follow my daily writings and my daily craziness that I go through. But right now, I'm going to the winery, so I'm about to go wine it up. So I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye!